numerous times I've been said I'm an African American. I am not happy what or how the justice has been kind of dealt with over the years. The state of oppression in our community, but we also as black people have to do right by ourselves. We can't be hypocrites. The place that I stand, sometimes it's a lose-lose. You know what I'm saying? You say something in one sense and everybody's saying you're a traitor. You say something in another sense and he's just too real. When you get a person that does some unjust things or killing an innocent person, killing fathers, killing people who have actual families, that's real. Like I have a son. How would it be in a daughter that I'm responsible for? So how would I be if one day they come home and it's no more daddy? It could have happened, hell, in Atlanta. It could have happened in Los Angeles. It doesn't matter. It's embarrassing, for things to just keep happening.
Shannon, what's your reaction to Cam's comments?
Joy, Skip, before I get into my comments on Cam, I want to talk to Charlotte for just a second. I know you're frustrated. I know you're hurting because you see what's going on around our country that's happening in our communities, and you feel like justice is not being served, but this is not the way to do it. Charlotte, we're better than this. We need for our voices to be heard. We need to keep the focus on the injustices. Don't frame this picture where we're rioting, where we're causing harm to police officers. They're there to protect us and to serve us, and we don't always get that. But this is not the way to go about to have our voices heard in our communities. So please, I'm asking, Skip and I, we've talked about this subject, and we're one of the few that will address this head on and talk about it. But do me a favor, Charlotte. You got to stop this rioting. You got to stop this looting. You got to stop harming these police officers in order for our voices to be heard, because they're portraying us in a negative light, and that's not the light that we want to be portrayed in. Now to Cam's comments. Before the Super Bowl, and I'm quoting Cam says, "I'm an African-American quarterback, and that may scare a lot of people." This was in early February. A GQ article came out, and I think it was June or July. He says, "I don't want this to be about race because it's not. It's not like we're beyond that as a nation." And so people were asking me, Shannon, Cam said this in early February. He's saying this now in late June, early July. What's going on? I'm thinking to myself, the country that Cam is talking about, did I sleep through it? I mean, what did I miss? And then it came out. The Carolina Panthers in the offseason hired Frank Luntz, who is a focus group guy. And for those who don't know, or let me explain to you what a focus group is. It's a group of people that's demographically diverse. So you're going to have black, white, Asian, Latino, men, women, straight, LGBT. Because, and in this focus group, what he was trying to do, words or phrase, what are your reactions when you hear this word? What is your reaction when you hear this phrase? Because when Cam said, "I'm an African-American quarterback," and that scares a lot of people, he put a lot of people off. Because here's the thing, now you have to still realize, although this is an NFL franchise, they're located in the South. So when you start talking about racism, sponsors do not want to hear that. Jerry Richardson, Mr. Richardson, who owns the Carolina Panthers, he doesn't want to hear that. So Cam, we're going to have you work with someone that we can maybe soften the stance. See, what Mr. Luntz likes to do, he likes to say the same thing, but he says it in a way that's easily digested. So instead of saying global warming, he says climate change. It's the same thing, but it's easily digested. See, what Cam is starting to understand, you can be good at any game if you understand the rules. See, the rules of this branding game that Cam wants to be good at. See, I can't tick off too many people over here. So I got to kind of ride the fence. Because, see, here's the thing. In order for you to grow your brand, see, Denzel Washington, Will Smith can't be as successful as they are if only black people saw their movies. Cam can't be as successful as he wants to be and grow his brand if only blacks buys Under Armour or the products that he's endorsing. So he can't, saying racism. Now, hold on. Now, wait a minute, Cam. See, and then he says, I don't want it to be about race because it's not. So now he changes his stance because he got so much blowback from what he said at the Super Bowl. He had to soften his stance because, see, when he says, I'm in a lose-lose situation, no, you're not. He says, because if I say this, I'm a traitor. Mm-hmm. Well, the African Americans are calling you a traitor because when you say racism doesn't exist, they know you're being disingenuous. When you say lose-lose in one sense and everybody says that he's being too real, that's not what white America is saying. White America is saying, Cam Newton, you make $20+ million a year. You're the face, one of the faces of the National Football League. You are the de facto face of the Carolina Panthers. Shut your mouth. We don't want to hear from you. Play football. As long as you look straight ahead, Skip, don't look to the left, don't look to the right, don't look behind, you're fine. But if you look over there and you see something that you know is wrong, we don't want you to say anything about it. And Cam says, you know what? I'm going to look at that. Because if you look at Michael Jordan, Michael was this very same way. He never said anything that would rock the boat when he was building Brand Jordan. Mm-hmm. Now, a couple of months ago, he gives $5 million. I'm not criticizing Michael Jordan because I never think it's too late to do the right thing. But what Cam is trying to do, he's trying to play both sides of the fence, Kip. He's like, I am black. And then, because yesterday he said, the place that I stand is that I'm upset with what I see in my community. What are you seeing, Cam? You said race didn't exist. So what are you seeing now? What brought it? Is it what happened in Charlotte? Was it the Tulsa, Oklahoma situation? What is it that you're seeing now that you feel comfortable enough? Because at the end of the day, look, the people that loved you, Cam, when you went through the situation in Florida, they're still going to love you. The people that loved you, what happened with your dad in Auburn, they're still going to love you. Some of these people, Cam, are going to love you because of what you do, not who you are. And Cam, if you understand that, they applaud what you can do on the field. And if you cause any attention to the plight and the injustices that you see and they know exist, it's going to cause a problem. It's going to make them uncomfortable. So here's the thing, Cam. If it's not in your heart, if it's not in your conscience, I have no problem. I don't need you to be Malcolm X. I don't need you to be Dr. King if that's not who you choose to be. Because while you're trying to please them and you're trying to please them, you're hurting and upsetting the one person that's most important, and that's you. Because at the end of the day, when you lay your head down on that pillow, if you're not comfortable with you, nothing else matters with how they think and what they think about you, Skip.
Okay. This one is very difficult for me. I'm going to say it again. I am obviously not black. You have a staunch view of this, and I respect it mightily. Mm-hmm. And I thank you for what you have said repeatedly on this show and what you just said to the city of Charlotte. Thank you very much. I can't begin to relate to how you feel about this. I'm learning a lot. My ears, eyes are wide open on this show. I've learned a lot in what have we been on? Almost 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. I've learned a lot from you, and we have Ray Lewis, your friend, back on today, and I hope to learn a little more about this. I have a white guy's view of what Cam Newton said, but it's not your view, so maybe it's not the applicable view here. Maybe it just doesn't matter what I think about it. And in the end, I have friends and family who watch this show, and they say, my goodness, Shannon's up on his soapbox again today. He's really pumped up. I say, yeah, listen to him, because you do speak strongly about this, passionately about this, in ways Cam Newton is either not capable or does not want to speak about this right now. So I don't know which way to go on this, because I don't know but what Cam Newton is speaking his heart when he goes both ways. Maybe that is his heart right now. He's still a very young man, yes, all things considered. Mm-hmm. He won his MVP. He got to the Super Bowl. He should have won the Super Bowl, we all believe, because they were favored to win the Super Bowl. And maybe he'll get back this year and win this one. He's growing up before your very eyes. And I think he's matured a lot before my very eyes from what he was his first year, right? So when he says, I can't win, I'm a traitor here or I'm too real over here, maybe that's his heart. Maybe he's not sure which way to go. And he concluded, and we didn't use this sound from him, but with this whole idea, talking to the black community, again, I'm repeating what he said. This isn't my view, but he said, we also need to do right by ourselves.
Absolutely.
We need to police ourselves. We can't be hypocrites about this. So he's saying, let's look inward as well as outward. Let's not completely condemn the white community for these problems. We also have our own problems we need to address. I'm sort of paraphrasing what he said, but that's how it came across. Is that valid? Is that his heart, or is he protecting his sponsors and his brand? I don't know which way. You would probably go that way, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is that all bad? Can you condemn him at his age for doing that? Should he mount the Shannon Sharpe soapbox at age 48 and take the stand that you keep taking on this show? I don't know. You tell me.
Because I'm not so sure at his age of 27, I would have been as mature as I am now and to see things now, because even though I was being 27, my background is what it is. And so looking at him now, I wasn't the face of the National Football League. I didn't have brand sponsors. I wasn't the face of an organization. But to give you, think about this. The owner of the Carolina Panthers, Jerry Richardson, his first meeting of Cam Newton, he sits down with him. Do you have any tattoos or piercings?
I got it.
On what job? I just want to know, what does piercings and tattoos have to do with the qualifications of this job?
Because in Jerry Richardson's view, you're going to be the face of this franchise.
Come on with it now, Skip.
Right?
Yep.
And he wants that face to be acceptable to the white as well as the black community. Right,
exactly.
And so there's a big segment of the white community who is not going to love it if he has
a tattoo
or whatever else.
Piercings.
Yeah, piercings. So, and by the way, quick point about the South and Charlotte. May I just make this point? Because I just spent 12 years in the Northeast. There are a lot of racists in the Northeast, too. Can I just say that for it's not just in the South where there's racism, but I get it. Charlotte is seen as more Bible Belt.
You know, they got the bathroom law.
I got it. But in the big picture here, I see a young man who is torn apart over this.
Very conflicted.
And at some moments, he wants to take the Shannon Sharpe soapbox.
Right.
And then the next one, he's saying, is this right? Am I right? And then I don't want him to be a Twitter victim here, because when he says, they call me a traitor, is that because he saw 3 people on Twitter called him a traitor? I don't know. Is he overreacting to the traitor part? I don't know. The too real part, is it because 3 white people on Twitter said, who are you to say that? You know, what are you saying?
Right. Skip, if he had stuck to his original premise in the very beginning, he says, I'm an African-American quarterback, and that may scare some people. How do you go?
Remember, he had to go to the Super Bowl then and get asked about it for a whole Super Bowl week. And it just drove him nuts. And I think he blamed it a little bit on his failure in the football game. Like, he got so caught up in trying to defend himself, I'm an African-American quarterback, that he lost focus on football. That's what I think he thinks happened.
And what the African-American community could not understand is that, how do you say this and then 4 months later say that? What transpired in even if you are Cam Newton, even if you just got a $100 million contract, even though you might not live in the communities that's being affected by this, what transpired in your life that you can't see what's going on? So that's why they called him a traitor. There's 1 minute you're saying, I'm an African-American quarterback, and that scares people. And now you're saying, you know, we're past that as a nation. And now yesterday you say you're tired of the injustices that go on in the community. So you say this in February, you say this in June or July, and you're saying this late September. The realness, because see, now the white America will say, see, Cam Newton said race doesn't exist. See, that's what happens. They will take a little snippet of what he says about this, and then, well, hey, Cam Newton's making $20 million, but that's my point. That's what Joy and I are being saying. Joy's on television, but that doesn't mean that women get fair treatment. Cam's making $20 million, but that's not the majority of the black Americans in Charlotte or Tulsa or Chicago or Detroit. So That's the, the dichotomy. But like I said, if it's not in Cam's heart, if it's not in his conscience to do this, don't do it. Because this is what's going to happen. You're going to waffle because because this side of the fence, oh, they're mad, so I got to jump back over here. This side is mad, I got to jump back over there. And that's what you're going to constantly do. And people see him as straddling. So now they're looking at him like, I don't believe nothing Cam say, because all Cam is saying what seems to be right at the moment.
Does he have a point in your eyes, in Shannon Sharpe's eyes, or in Joy's eyes, about African-American community has to do right by ourselves? That whole idea of we can't be hypocrites about this. Because I can make a case from a distance as a white guy, that was the strongest statement he made. That's not a very popular statement to make.
Yes.
That was speaking out. Maybe he's speaking his heart. Maybe his heart isn't your heart right now, because Shannon Sharpe would not say that to the black community, I don't think, even though you asked Charlotte to please calm down and back off.
But you have to understand, Skip, a lot of these communities became established because they couldn't get fair housing. So they got lumped in these, and look at the poverty in the black community, look at the unemployment in the black community, look at the educational level in the black community, look at the health care in those communities. And so you'll see why when you become desperate, when you become frustrated. But they said we got to do right, because here's the thing. If somebody in the black community were to shoot someone, what do the police do? You can remain anonymous, turn them in. But when police do wrong, they don't talk. They don't snitch. So the thing is, what we see is that when we do something wrong in our community, it's found out, we're held accountable. We're asking, when police officers do something that's wrong, that they be held accountable. Now, you can try to do some misdirection and talk about, well, you got to do this. Because here's the thing. When you start talking about the inequities in our society, the first thing most white Americans will holler is Chicago. But you know what? They offer no solution to Chicago, but that's just to get you off for talking about the inequities of what's going on with the police brutality and the situation that we deal with in our communities. Yes, there are a lot of things that's going on. But Skip, if you look at it, Black just didn't become unemployed yesterday. We've always had a higher rate of unemployment. For the most part, we've always been fairly undereducated next to our counterpart. That's changing a little bit, but this is not something that just happened yesterday. You're talking about 50, 60, 70 years of this type of behavior, Skip. And so now we can't expect, nor do we, but we expect to be treated fairly. We expect that when people do something wrong, they're held accountable, just like I am. If I do something wrong, I'm going to be held accountable. That's what we want. We want justice. We want fairness. We want equal treatment of the law. And it seems, one of my law professors in college he said, son, when you walk up the steps to a courthouse, they say justice is blind. He said, but don't you believe that? He said, Lady Justice is peeping from under that blindfold. If you're Black, you're a minority, you're indigent, the scales of justice is not for you. It's like shackles and cobwebs. If you're a minority or you're indigent, it's like shackles, you're held more accountable. If you're wealthy, you brush it off like cobwebs. Don't tell me what I see. Don't tell me what I know. You can say, look, and like you say, Skip, you always, when we start these conversations, Skip, you always say, I'm a white man, and I don't know what you're feeling or what you're thinking, Shannon. I'm trying to tell you, you will listen. But some, not all, there's no such thing as all and every, but some try to tell me what I haven't experienced. Some try to tell me what I don't see, because I know what I see. I've been there. All the things from dirt poor in rural South Georgia to where I am now. The one thing I've been for 48 years, I've changed zip codes and area codes. But the one thing I have not changed is being Black. From a baby to a boy to now a man. So you can't tell me what I know. You can't tell me what I feel. So if you stop trying to tell me what I know and what I feel and what I see, we're going to be fine. But like you, Skip, you were willing to open your mind. You're like, I'm white from Oklahoma. I don't know what the Black goes through, but I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to hear. I'm willing to open my mind and my heart and be receptive. That's all we ask. We're not asking you to go spend 6 months in South Side of Chicago or Detroit. We're asking you to show compassion. Because think about this, Skip. We'll show compassion. We've seen people, a dog get hit side the road, not their dog. They'll scoop it up and take it to the vet. Can we get a little better treatment than an animal? That's all. That's all. Just a little better treatment than that.